You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, Lucha Central Weekly.
Hello, and welcome to the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. I am not your host, Miranda Morales. I am dashing Dusty Murphy. Miranda is not here this week. She's got actual Lucha things to do. And so I am being joined this week, as always, by who? Who? By Brendan Barr, that's who.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty great. How's it going for you, Brendan?
Doing good. Yeah, so we don't have Miranda. We're going to keep this short and sweet to keep things at a nice, quick pace for y'all. We've got, for those of you who haven't been paying attention or don't know, Miranda is a ring announcer, is doing a bunch of things, including Pro Wrestling Revolution, which is this weekend. And I believe she's doing promotional materials for that right now, which is what's as we record this. So we will be waiting eagerly for her PWR results, that also doubles kind of as my indie roundup. That PWR is this weekend. General tickets are the only thing left. So we did a nice detailed show. We broke down a lot of we broke down everything between our interview and the detailed show that indie roundup we did last week. So if you aren't hyped for this card yet, we're not going to do it all over again. You don't worry. You can go back and listen to the other show. But, I'm just excited. I've had a couple energy drinks and we're ready to go.
Yeah. Going to be a great show this week.
Going to be good stuff.
Speaking of, I think you've got some news of the week.
Yeah, I really, like I said, because I wanted to keep this short, I've got one story and Dusty's got one story. They're kind of related. So, I saw it on Lucha Blog first. He did post a link to it, but Faby Apache has announced that she is parting ways with CMLL. We do have, she is a professional and she rounded out her dates, but it sounds like, there was just too much, politicking on either sides of it. I think she wanted more than they wanted. They didn't want her to wrestle certain people. She wanted to still maintain dates in the indies that they didn't want her to, is what the speculation is. So, here we are. The interesting thing is that means that she's saying that she wants to do more dates in the U.S., so CMLL's loss is our gain, really. We are potentially gaining another fantastic woman's Lucha Libre star. Since we are already talking about Pro Wrestling Revolution, that's an easy fit to bring her up here once she gets the work visas.
Oh, absolutely. It's exciting to see her there. And they have the good matchups. They have the exciting, the dream matchups. And so that would be very exciting.
Right? Yeah, no, so I am excited by the idea of her coming to the United States. Return to AAA is not off the table, but that's not the primary thing that she's been talking about at this point. So, we'll keep you updated on that story. But, Dusty, you had a sort of similar vein story for us.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of speculation in the last few days, this week, that Taya has signed with one of the two larger American companies, either AEW or WWE. There had been rumors that started about a week ago as we record this, so roughly the middle of last week, that she was wrapping up her time with Impact Wrestling. And Taya has long talked about how she's a free agent. She's working without a contract in each place she's wrestling in. And so the only real reason to wrap things up with Impact under her current working relationship would be if she signed a contract with a different American company. And so we can infer quite a bit there that something might be going on, but how it'll play out in the near future is anybody's guess. It's going to be quite interesting for AAA as well. The Taya holds the Reyna's Championship. She's been announced for the World Cup, but we haven't seen Taya for several months in AAA. So there's a lot at play here. Interesting things going on. No real indication of the direction she's headed, but the fact that she's wrapping up with Impact gives you an idea that she signed with somebody else. She's going to be doing work with somebody else, and how that affects the Reyna's Championship will be very interesting. We've seen the kind of posturing, I guess, towards a relationship that AAA made towards WWE. She's got a history with Triple H there, but then also WWE deeply misused Taya while she was there. She hardly wrestled. I think she only wrestled like 4 or 5 matches. And so it could likely be AEW. They, really are doing a lot for their women's roster, their women's storylines, trying to flesh that out. I feel like it's a 50-50 shot to which company she goes to. But what happens to the Reyna's Championship is really interesting. Because we saw that working championship with AEW and AAA, but at the same time we saw AAA trying to do a working relationship of some kind with WWE with the whole Dragon Lee thing. And so there's a lot at play here and a lot of interesting dynamics. And that's where the real interest to me is what happens with the Reyna's Championship, what happens with the Lucha World Cup. Do we see her drop the title? Does she make it all the way to one of the Triple Manias before she drops the title? I think that we very likely see her in that match, her title match against Lady Flummer. I think Lady Flummer would be a great choice to be a Reyna's champion. So a lot of cool, interesting things going on here with Taya. Keep your eye on what she's doing. The not immediate future, but near immediate future is going to be very interesting and very exciting.
So I do have to have a quick question here. We know she signed. Well, we don't know. The rumor is she signed with a major American promotion, but that does not necessarily mean she has to do anything with AAA, right?
Correct. Yeah. So, if it's AEW, especially if you were previously contracted with the AAA, they seem to have no problem with that. As we've seen with Penta and Phoenix, wrestling for AAA. And Taya has a special relationship with AAA and Conan and everything as well. So I would think if it's AEW, it likely has less of an effect on the Reyna's Championship. But if WWE wants to play nice with AAA and wants to try to make those inroads to a lucha thing or a talent exchange, I think Taya would be an excellent person to start that kind of bridge program. And so there's a lot of interesting dynamics at play here and really interesting things that could happen. If it was almost anybody else, I'd be like, I don't know. But Taya is so special compared to the average wrestler, especially in the women's divisions.
To your point, if WWE is doing it, she has the locker room connections to create significant inroads for WWE. She is, to use the over-abused term, she is what you might call a locker room leader.
Yes.
So she has the respect of the wrestlers as well as the respect of the management to really kind of add that leverage. So politically speaking, WWE signing her would be fantastic if inroads is what they're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think it's likely. I feel like it could be 50-50 either way, but like I say, what happens with that Reyna's Championship and the AAA connection is really where things are going to get interesting.
Mm-hmm. And it does the Faby Apache return or leaving of CMLL does add to this whole thing too, just so people can understand where my head was at, because she also has a deep relationship with AAA. So
absolutely.
So if Taya is 1 foot out the door, then maybe they pull a big return out of Faby, because you can get big headlines out of that. Mexico will go crazy for that headline.
Absolutely.
Or you go the other way where you put them back together and you can return to that dream match, because that is a Lucha Women's dream match, no matter who hosts it. So there's some the lots of interesting things going on there. Okay. Sorry. Do you have any more on this, Dusty, or is that...
No, that's it for me.
All right.
Slide right into the indie roundup.
Well, I kind of gave away the indie roundup here. All I really want to do is mention Pro Wrestling Revolution is going to be this weekend. Let me pull up the Facebook page here. We are looking at John O'Connell High School. We're going to have several matches, like I mentioned in the intro. They're all sold out except for general admission. But as someone who's been there and done this, if you still want to get a signature or you want to shake hands with some of these guys that are going to be in the VIP meet and greet, a lot of them are still there at the end of the night, and you will still have a chance. You just have to wait in a much longer line. So if that's your deal breaker, you might have to, you might just have to get a GA ticket and take your chances. But still going to be an amazing show. Komander, who we've talked about, is on the card. Gravity, just all these massive and huge names. Again, we broke that down. So April 29th. I'm sorry. I'm looking in the future here. March 11th, this weekend at the now it's in San Jose. So I said John O'Connell High School. I'm getting this all wrong. This is why we need Miranda here. Mount Pleasant High School, March 11th. And we're going to have, and still not to be underestimated in this, because now I've got that graphic in front of me. Not just Komander, we've got Vikingo. Come on. This is such a loaded card. Only thing is general admission left is general admission tickets. Pro Wrestling Revolution, San Jose, Mount Pleasant High School, March 11th. So by the time the show goes live, it will be your very last chance to get there. But that is my quick indie roundup. As always, I'm going to ask for your submissions. I have been working a heck of a lot lately, so I am really a poor representative on this. I want to get out and get to your shows. So if you give me dates ahead of time, I can put in time off requests and I can go see your shows. And as always, we do our socials at the end of the show, so you can contact me directly if you need to. And with that, I'm just going to, since Miranda's not here, I'm just going to throw it out now. Let's go to Denise Salcedo for our quick wrap-up of the roundup of this week.
Yeah, this week's Lucha Central.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
Hey everyone, it's Denise Salcedo here in Lucha Central with a reminder of where and when to catch all of the great network content this week. Get the full lineup and listen to all of our shows in the podcast network section of luchacentral.com. On Tuesdays, Mass Mats and Mayhem takes you inside the world of Lucha Underground as they take you weekly through the series with the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of special guests from the groundbreaking series. Check out the premiere video stream every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Lucha Central YouTube channel and at luchacentral.com. Then listen to it on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday. Tuesday nights live, it's Wrestle Boss, where Faby Chulo talks MMA and pro wrestling with special guests and listener call-ins. Visit WrestleBossLive.com Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific to listen live or call in with questions or download the show on podcast platforms on Wednesdays. Wednesday nights live on Facebook, it's Spanish show La Mesa de los Márgaros, giving you both the news and the chisme from around the lucha world. Special guests and a whole lot of fun make it one of the most talked about shows in Mexico. Thursdays, it's straight out of the bodega with Papo Esco and PWR promoter Gabriel Ramirez, as they have guests from throughout the wrestling world pull up to give an inside look into their careers. From indie standouts to television superstars, each week brings a new name and perspective. On Friday, it's your double dose of Lucha Central Weekly podcast, one in English y el otro en español. Lucha Central Weekly is where you'll find all the top stories of the week, both inside and out of the ring from Mexico and anywhere luchadores are in action across the globe. Be sure to subscribe and follow all your favorite Lucha Central Network series on your favorite podcast platforms, either by their own series name or subscribe to the Lucha Central Podcast Network show pages to get all of the shows in one easy feed. And please consider giving a rating to help more fans find the shows that you love. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central Central. Have a great week.
Lucha-Masks.com by Pro Wrestling Revolution, bringing you, in partnership with Mask Republic, the Lucha Brothers, as well as Japanese legend Ultimo Dragon. Go to lucha-masks.com and fight Lucha Strong with masks from your favorite Lucha legends and Pro Wrestling Revolution luchadores. Stay safe in style and represent your favorite luchador. Get yours now at lucha-masks.com, powered by Pro Wrestling Revolution.
And we're back. This week we'll start with some mildly WWE and AEW related news. First up, we have Mascara Dorada, also known as Grand Metalik, also known as Metalik. We had kind of discussed this last week, but it came out in the news within the last week that he does indeed own the rights to the name Metalik. He's still planning on being Mascara Dorada in New Japan and in CMLL, but he can't do too much work with them right now outside of New Japan Strong. He's still working on his WWE US visa, and so if he works outside the country, it opens up a whole lot of issues. So he is not working outside the country until that is done. That's why he used the name Metalik. And then also in AEW, we saw Komander show up last week in a kind of crazy ladder match. It was, I mean, that's a fair way to put it. The winner got a shot at TNT champion Samoa Joe, and it was a brawl. Komander did a lot of the rope walking. He kicked the ladder down a bunch of times. Like, it was kind of awesome. Did the rope stuff, everything you'd want to see Komander do. But the match was an absolute disaster. Ortiz and Kingston, they fought pretty much from the beginning of the match, and then they were gone for like nearly the entirety of the match.
They did the thing where they fought all the way to like behind the curtain.
Yeah, the back stage. Yeah.
And then they just disappeared.
Yeah. And then they eventually made it back, but it was bizarre. And
yes.
There were too many people, and there were too many instances of people going for like a really big spot or an oh my god moment, rather than just trying to scurry up the ladder and win. That always suspends my disbelief a little bit, and I felt like this was especially egregious in this match. The other thing is about this match that came out was that Tony Khan had tried really hard to get Io Del Vikingo, but he could not get it arranged. And the kind of reading between the lines there is that, of course, Will Hobbs won the match. That was AEW's intention. But that perhaps AAA did not want Vikingo in a match that he wasn't going to win. And I think they made the right call, especially seeing the end result. He would have just been a guy lost in the shuffle. I felt bad for Komander that he didn't get a more high-profile spot. I really felt he was the standout of the match. The rope walk in particular really stood out to me. But still, he was the guy they got when they couldn't get Vikingo, which is interesting. And it kind of ties into the WWE thing, because apparently he's also, Komander's the guy that they want as well.
He's the guy. We keep talking about that. He's the guy that's got the big future on it. And that's kind of, I think that he was the perfect Vikingo for this match, because Vikingo would not be elevated by this match, to your point. Will Hobbs was going to win. They needed Will Hobbs to win. But Komander got to be a standout. He got to be somebody nobody had seen before. His social media presence has exploded since that match. Like you can, if you want to see highlights of all of Komander's rope walking all the way back to his days in Monterey, you can see it on Twitter now. Everybody has reposted that, everybody is trying to argue about who's known him, been a fan of his longer now. You know, it's the old DOC hipster thing. I liked him better on vinyl. So that was the perfect elevation for him. I think that was a good call on their part to get him. I think exposing him that way to the American audience means that now when he shows up to San Jose and San Francisco or Chicago or anywhere else that he's been signed, LA, he's signed for the WrestleMania weekend stuff. People are going to be there wanting to see him now. He's not going to be the surprise thing. There are people buying tickets to go see him. So I think that was the good spot there.
Yeah, I agree. He's really done a lot to build up his name in the last year. He showed up in GLEAT in Japan, which is like a mixed martial arts and wrestling promotion. He teamed with Bandito and had an incredible tag match last October. And so his international star is rising, and I think this is going to be the year of Komander. He's still under contract to Chaos at this time, but apparently WWE is very interested in Komander, and they have enough money usually to help people get out of those contracts if they want it.
It's a nice contract you have there. It'd be a shame if some billionaire bought it out.
Yeah. But it's exciting that they signed Dragon Lee. We'll touch on Dragon Lee in a moment here, but also Komander is on WWE's radar. The fact that these are the guys they're looking at shows that they have an eye on some of the best talent in Mexico. Yeah. And if WWE is going to make a play for Lucha, which we've kind of discussed with the Taya thing, these are the people you would want. Like if you were going to build a 7 or 8 person Lucha roster to help your Lucha, group or help make inroads into Mexico, these are the guys you would want. These are the top talents. And Dragon Lee.
Let's not underestimate the value of that one luchador they have by the name of Rey Mysterio.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's who every luchador looks up to.
And they all want to work with him, so yeah.
Yeah, and lots of people like Taya know Rey Mysterio, and so you've got that connection there, and the things they've done with Dominik have to be very promising to a lot of people too, because that's exciting and maybe a non-traditional use of Lucha. When they brought him in as the babyface, I never could have predicted what we see now, but that's what makes it work, and so I think there's a lot of exciting things going on in WWE for Lucha right now. Dragon Lee is actually headed to the Performance Center this week, and there is no current timeline on his debut, but because it's this week, we likely won't see him in the WrestleMania season. But as things progress, I think that it's likely they're going to want him to do some training. After the whole thing with the original and now again Mystico and the original Sin Cara WWE, he bypassed their training system and immediately went to the main roster, and it caused some issues. WWE was quite unhappy about that. They allowed it to happen because it worked with Alberto Del Rio, and so they likely will not let that happen again. They're going to want him to get some matches in the American style, the NXT style, the WWE style, the camera, all of that. He's more ready than most, but they're still going to want to see that out of him. And so I think it's likely we see him debut sometime between June and SummerSlam, so like June and mid-August. I think he's going to be a very big deal. I don't know that we see him in NXT terribly long. Apparently his NXT deal is one of the highest paying NXT deals that is out there right now.
If they're putting that kind of money at him, he's getting fast tracked.
Yeah. And should be for good reason.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this, you know who Dragon Lee is. You know what he can do. But there's a lot of American fans that don't. A lot of people that just don't have the
people who watch every Monday and Wednesday, they just, and that's fine. And to your other point, TV would be his, in my opinion, his biggest weak spot. Like, sure, he did work in ROH where they have TV cameras, but the style of TV work is different. Like
Absolutely.
they don't play to the camera in ROH. They just wrestle and ignore the cameras. Whereas in WWE, they want you to engage that camera. They want you, if you're in pain, to turn and look to that camera and sell into the camera. And they want you to, they want you to play up to the camera from the moment you walk out the ramp to the moment that you go all the way back, whether you won or lost. You are engaging an extra audience member just by working with that camera, and that's this very specific WWE sort of thing. That's what the E is, entertainment. They want the fans to feel engaged and entertained.
Absolutely. And they do a great job with that. When you can mix the talent of somebody like Dragon Lee with the media savvy and entertainment business savvy of WWE, who, let's face it, for better or for worse, are the number one company and likely always will be the number one wrestling company in America. The name recognition and value is one of the great American brands now. I mean, on par with like Ford or Coca-Cola. WWE synonymizes wrestling for a lot of people.
It's true.
And so I think that it's going to be very interesting. They've been doing a lot of good things. We touched on the Dominik thing they've been doing, but so much excellent stuff still going on with Dominik. He had a match last week on SmackDown with Santos Escobar, the former Io del Fantasma. Great lucha match. I was very excited for this. I wasn't sure how they were going to do it, but they had... Go ahead.
We were talking a lot about how this was going to play out last week. And neither of us used this version of it. So, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, it's true. And they had, it was a pretty good match. Rhea Ripley got involved. She hit the Riptide on Santos. And WWE has this weird thing about men and women. Like the moves they're allowed to hit, it's part of their contract with Mattel for the toys that the men and women won't be allowed to wrestle, so they have to get Mattel's approval before they can have a woman put their hands on a man or vice versa. So the fact that Rhea Ripley was able to hit the Riptide on Santos Escobar is a huge deal. The fact that he was willing to take the Riptide says a lot about Santos. I thought that was a really cool thing for him to do. Just a great spot in the match. Dominik wins. After the match, he takes Ray's mask and tears it. Ray's music hits and he confronts Dominik, and Dominik says he'll only give him the mask back if Ray hits him. And so he drops the mask and starts to walk away. But as Ray reaches for it, Dominik comes back and hits him with a sucker punch. And so good. We're building to the WrestleMania feud. Looks like it's likely going to be for the mask. Ray versus Dominik in the Apuestas match. We've seen the mask figure in to a lot of the stuff lately, especially starting at Royal Rumble and on. I think that's where we see it go. It also came out this week with Dominik that he had contacted Vicky Guerrero and had gotten her permission to copy Eddie's catchphrases and his moves, his Eddie dance. Vicky gave him some tips on getting heel heat. She came up with the idea that he needed to be called Ripley Mommy at every chance. And if you haven't seen Vicky in person, I've been to see presidents. I've been to school closure meetings. I have heard some boos, but I have never, ever heard anybody get booed, heckled, hissed, whatever you want to call it, like Vicky Guerrero. I have never. She comes out and says, "Excuse me," and women that were just sitting there on their phones the whole time jump to their feet and throw things. Like, I have never.
This is a global response. This is not just like in the U.S. Like when she's in Mexico or Japan, she gets the same response.
I have never seen a heel get heat like Vicky Guerrero. She is so good at what she does, and I am so pleased that she is kind of Dominik's coach. We touched on this last week, that Vicky was leaving AEW. Rumors were that she was headed to WWE, but the fact that she's kind of coaching Dominik on how to be an effective heel and the type of heel that Vicky was and that Dominik is right now, I am so excited for this. Like, I just thinking about it gets me all excited for what's going to happen at SummerSlam with Dominik. I really think we see he and Vicky pair up. I cannot wait. I remember some of her work with Edge when they were teamed up, and the responses she would get. Remember how mad people would get? And I just can't wait. Like, it's been a long time. With MJF, this is kind of the thing, and in AEW rather, but he was a heel, but now he's turned into the heel you love. Like, he gets cheered. Not Vicky. Nobody loves to cheer Vicky. She's not the heel you love. She's the heel you hate. She's good with that, and I love that.
She's so good at making everybody hate her. Like, I go into shows a lot of the time knowing, well, that's just Vicky doing what Vicky's gonna do, and I've got a big grin on my face the first time she says, "Excuse me," but by the end of the promo, I'm ready to throw stuff at her too.
It's the magic of Vicky. She is truly one of the best, and I would say non-wrestling heels or non-wrestling Rudos, but she has gotten physical on occasion, even in AEW.
Which just adds to the mystique, because she does not wrestle like a wrestler.
No, and at her age and being willing to be the butt of the joke like that, she's such a cool person, and so much cool going on there. And the coaching Dominik, she understands wrestling, especially compared to a lot of people, and even spouses, because she became an on-screen figure, and Vicky is the best at what she does. Absolutely. And to have a coach like Vicky Guerrero is one of the most exciting things that could happen for somebody like Dominik. When you think about, his dad, Conan, training at Santino Brothers Academy, now Vicky Guerrero, this is the kind of lucha pedigree that nobody gets.
Well, that's what happens. A lot of people don't understand the intangibles of being a multi-generation wrestler, right?
Absolutely.
But that is one of because he grew up, he was around all these wrestlers. The reason that he worked so well with Edge, and all of that is because it was just wrestling to him, right? Like, he said in an interview with Conan that, he was nervous as all hell, but at the same time, it was, once he got in that comfortable spot, it's just wrestling to him, so he could do it. And yeah, he's got all those connections. Like, I mean, can you imagine? He's got Rey Mysterio's telephone at his fingertips. He can call anybody. He can call Conan. He can call Vicky. He can call people in Japan. I mean, he can call Ultimo Dragon. Like, just
Well, and somebody I think that he may have talked to too. We don't hear about it, of course, the cross-divisional lines and whatnot. But Chris Jericho. Chris and Ray wrestled a lot of matches. They were in WCW together, then WWE. And I'm starting to see a little bit of that Chris Jericho type of heel from Dominik, I think. Or maybe it's just that his confidence is so strong that I'm getting a similar vibe.
Well, it's hard to not compare his character to what Chris Jericho does all the time, because
absolutely,
Chris Jericho has always had that confidence, like. So when he was first starting out as a babyface, Lionheart was about the confidence of, I'm small, but I think I'm going to win anyway. And then later it was, I don't care what you think, I'm going to win. And I'm so confident in my ability, I'm going to just say all the most absurd things, like I am the master of 1004 holds. And yeah, you have to compare that, because that's what Dom's doing now. Like, he has no business being in the ring with any of the people that he's in the ring with in character, but he's just carrying it on himself. Like, not only does he think he should be in the ring with them, but he thinks he's going to physically destroy them. And how can you not compare that to Chris Jericho's overconfidence?
Yeah, it's just fantastic. So many good things for Dominik. If you had told me a year ago that, like, Dominik would be, and like I say, he's probably the second best heel in WWE. Roman is doing good things, but like for Dominik to be second best, only behind Roman, I would have never believed it. And especially separated from Ray like that.
Yeah, it took Roman years to reach that stride.
It absolutely did.
That was the biggest discussion for the longest time, is why are we getting this Roman Reigns guy? We don't like him. We don't want him. He's not good on the mic. And it felt like it just changed overnight, but it was a slow progression. Very slow.
Yeah, if it had not been for the Thunderdome or whatever they called it, where all the fans were on video and they could pipe in their reactions, I don't know that the Roman thing would have worked out the way it did. I mean, they were able to kind of steer it without the fans interacting, and that allowed the story to play out. But Dominik, on the other hand, they leaned into it. They leaned into what the fans were saying. And in doing that, they made him so much better and just fantastic. And as Brendan mentioned, like, his self-confidence and belief in self is just amazing. And his inability to see himself objectively or like outside of himself, and that he thinks he's for real hard, for real an ex-con, and it's just beautiful. They've hit on something fantastic, and very un-WWE like fashion. They haven't beat us to death with it. They give us just little bits and pieces here and there. And that makes it so much more rewarding when we get it. I'm more excited about it. Even on social media, they, have been very hesitant, I guess, with content. And it just leaves you wanting more. They never give you enough. Yeah. Yes, restrained is a great word for it.
Yeah.
And it just, you want so much more in such an exciting way. I've talked about it with Miranda before. I've stopped watching WWE. I would only watch certain matches on Hulu. I didn't watch the whole thing. But with the Dominik thing and with Ray going on and the Roman Reigns thing and the Seth Rollins, I have been watching WWE every week lately. I've been very excited about it. But I have never more excited than when Judgment Day, when we see Rhea and Dom. I think they are much bigger than Judgment Day. I can't imagine that in a faction with Finn Balor that they would be the stars, but they are. I think we'd likely see women's champion Rhea at WrestleMania, and so there's so much that's just a rocket strap to that pair, and what an odd duck pairing that works so perfectly.
To what you were referencing there, it's for the first time, because you have 3 different storylines that are so good and are being so subtly used. You feel like you have to watch the whole episode because you might miss a tiny little thing. This is like the last time SmackDown was like that was when you were getting Bray Wyatt Easter eggs. And that only works for people that wanted Bray Wyatt. But when you've got 3 different storylines, you're feeling like you're gonna miss something. You don't even want to leave the room to go to the bathroom at that point. Like I was at work and that was just on in a room that I went into. And I had to wait until a commercial break because I didn't want to miss what was going on. Even though I was going to watch the show when I got home.
Yeah. I work at a college, and when I first started working there, AEW was brand new, and I would occasionally see kids watch it on TV on the dorms, or occasionally see a AEW shirt, but not much WWE. But lately, every Monday and Friday, in the dining hall, in the dorms, somebody is watching WWE. And it's very exciting for me as a fan to see that younger people are engaging as fans too, and that, know, a lot of these people grew up with WWE and kind of aged out of it. It wasn't cool anymore, but WWE's figured out that cool formula. And Dominik Mysterio is a huge part of that. Which
when they look back on whatever they name this era as, they're going to almost definitely refer to this as one of the pivot points. It may not be as crucial as Hulk Hogan showing up on Bash at the Beach, but it is a defining point of the Ruthless Aggression promo. Let's use that counterexample.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, Dominik is going to be one of the big stars. I have never been more confident in Dominik Mysterio and in Lucha in WWE than I have right now.
Well, we have his success to thank for it, in my opinion. I think if Dom was not as over as he was, that this massive effort they put for their luchadors would not be as strong.
And the fact that they were willing to work until they found what worked for him and what clicked, and it clicked so perfectly. Big things for Dominik, big things for WWE. A lot of great stuff there. Hopefully we'll have more next week. I cannot wait until they make the Puestas announcement for WrestleMania. You know there's going to be a Puestas announcement, so I hope I have that for you next week. But
we didn't state that enough, Dom tore Rey Mysterio's mask. Like, it was the mask that he gave Santos, so there's an extra little twist and turn in there. But that is lucha behavior that says Apuesta's match is imminent.
Yes. Yeah. Once you disrespect the mask, like, it's an Apuestas match.
Yeah.
And very cool stuff there. And it'd be nice to see a for real Apuestas match with a big stakes feel in WWE finally. That's not like mask versus title or mask versus whatever. You know, like, it's important. A lot of big things on the line now. Father versus son. A lot of cool dynamics. And like I say, it's the best I've felt about WWE and Lucha in years. And so I'm very excited to see that play out. We will have more WWE news for you next week. Same Lucha time, same Lucha channel. This is usually where Miranda starts the announcements.
So,
go ahead.
So before we close out the show, we jumped ahead a little bit. I wanted to swing back around because you were talking about the ladder match. You made some allusions to AEW's ladder match and how some people felt about that. So I figured this would be a good opportunity for us to kind of weigh in on that a little bit. Like, so what I'm referencing is that there was a lot. Dusty mentioned there were a lot of spots where it felt the action felt a little more forced. The internet specifically was very divided on having the locker room of referees empty out so that they could all hold the ladder at the end of the match.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of discourse on that spot in particular, where they said some fans said that took them out of the match, and other fans said, "What's the big deal? I barely noticed it until a bunch of you guys pointed it out." And I'm guessing by your statement, Dusty, that you're a little bit more on that seemed unnecessary side of it.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of having the ref come out and hold the ladder, and the refs rather. I thought that was a little weird, and the whole thing kind of suspended my broke my suspension of disbelief while I watched it. It was just a mess. Yeah.
I feel like. Oh, go ahead.
I felt like there was too much going on to see everything, and maybe it was just me. I was watching a lot of what Komander did personally, like the shooting star press onto
Yes.
the ladder, the blue thunder bomb off the ladder. There were just a lot of cool spots, but I felt like shooting star press onto the ladder, blue thunder bomb off the ladder. Why not just climb the ladder and try to grab the? You know what I mean? Like, get up there and win. Like,
that's been my problem for ages. Like, I can't remember exactly which luchador did this, but one of them did a double jump at one point in a different match. They jumped from the ground to the top of the turnbuckle in one jump, and then ran the rope and jumped up to the top of the ladder. But rather than going for the belt, they then did a moonsault off the ladder. Like, you were there.
Yeah.
You were fast enough. You could have grabbed it before those idiots even blinked. And yet what you did instead was go, and you can argue that it's, they're in the mind of being offensive or whatever else. But yeah, you're right. It's a weird feeling to see that. And sometimes even the casual fans are going to look at that and go, what's going on? I feel like that's what happened more, is that once you reach the point where you have a massive structure of ladders and you have to have multiple referees appear out of nowhere to hold things, you run the risk that you're going to ruin that kind of mutual acceptance where fans will turn a little bit of a blind eye to obvious problems, like, why didn't the referee disqualify somebody? Why is this being allowed? And then instead now you're just like, well, it's a cooperative show. So,
Yeah, and especially once the refs came out and they held the ladder and everything. I didn't care for that spot. That's really... anything you see in wrestling that gives you the feeling that the fix is in, I feel like takes you out immediately. And even if it's a storyline where the fix is in, it ties into the scripted nature of everything for me. And I'm watching a TV show and I'm not engaged in the moment when I see things like that.
So in fairness, I will say that the other side of that very validly pointed out that they're not the kind of fans who normally see that. So they were too busy looking at the top of the ladder rather than the bottom of the ladder. As long as commentary doesn't say anything about the referees holding it, you can keep some of those fans. And unfortunately, we live in the post-ECW world, where you have to have bigger and more spectacular car accidents each week in order to keep new people tuning in. So they have to try it. I'm with you in that I didn't feel that particular spot, and a lot of the spots in the second half of the match struggled with a lot of that. But I also support them trying to do this. I enjoy that they put Komander in a position where he's like, let me do something wacky and let me try a Blue Thunder Bomb, and because we saw some of that to go all the way back to Mystices / Sin Cara. He was in the ladder match early on, and he tried some of that, and that's how he got hurt. But they, just kind of, anyway, because it was such a hot topic, I wanted to get some opinions on it. It's a pity Miranda's not here, because I know she would have an interesting take on this one too.
Yeah, this is disappointing that she's not here with us for that one. She would definitely have an opinion. But she will be back with us next time. And if you want to follow Miranda on social media, you can follow her at the hashtag, that's hashtag spelled out HASHTAG, the hashtag Miranda. And she's on Instagram, and she's also on Facebook. And Brendan, do you want to tell our listeners where your social media is?
Absolutely. I am 321 T-shirt guy. That's the numbers 321. T-shirt guy is all spelled out. I am on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I'm all over the Twitters.
And I am on Instagram at Dusty Murphy, and I am on Facebook at Facebook.com/Dusty Murphy. And as always, you can find Lucha Central at luchacentral.com. And they have social media. Facebook, you can find Lucha Central. I believe they are at Lucha Central on Instagram, and Lucha_Central at YouTube. For all your Lucha needs and more, check those out. And check us out next week. We will be here. Same Lucha time, same Lucha channel.